Welcome to American Agenda. I'm Bob Sellers with Heather Childers. At Twitter's annual shareholder meeting yesterday, a member of the conservative shareholder activist group, Free Enterprise Group, confronted the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, with a blunt question. Why do you continue to censor only on the conservative side?
Why do you continue to censor only on the conservative side?
We have no bias in any of our policies, in our enforcement, in our machine learning algorithms. If we ever find anything even hinting at that, we look at it immediately and rectify it. If we make any mistakes along the way, we admit to them and correct them.
Joining us now, Scott Shepard, fellow at the National Center for Public Policy Research and deputy director of its Free Enterprise Project, who was at the Twitter meeting. How do you interpret that answer? Is that satisfying?
Well, Bob, the whole exchange was fairly astonishing because the question that we submitted, of course, these are still virtual meetings, and so we can't get in front of them and ask them. The question that we submitted included a serious set of distinctions between censoring conservatives and not censoring the same sort of content on the liberal side. In answering a question and saying they don't discriminate and censor conservatives, they censored our question, taking out facts that proved our point that they do censor against conservatives. So there's, the Orwellianness of big tech and social media goes on every second of every day. But beyond that, the answer was itself kind of ridiculous in the sense that you'll notice that he talked about the algorithms being applied equally and all the other things. But in order for the algorithms and the bots to work correctly, they have to be programmed so that they consider all sorts of hate, all sorts of racism. They judge all sorts of content in an objective way. If everything a conservative says is hate and everything a liberal or a woke person says is just fine, then the bots and the algorithms will work in a technically objective way, and it'll still be incredibly discriminatory. And that's what Twitter's always done, and that's what it continues to do. And Jack Dorsey is well aware of that.
Did anyone ask you yourself or anyone else questions about other groups banding together and censoring conservatives, like Twitter banding together with Facebook, Amazon, Google, Microsoft? Was there any discussion about that?
Well, there wasn't. It was a very stage-managed event yesterday, the Twitter annual shareholder meeting. Once these start happening in person again, we'll start getting better results because we won't be mitigated through corporate secretaries and such. But it's certainly true that that's absolutely what's going on. The destruction of Parler, which would have been a competitor to Twitter, is the sort of thing that really requires antitrust review and consideration, because collusion in order to keep out competitors, in order to keep monopoly power, is also a violation of the antitrust laws. And there's no question that once discovery started, it would be perfectly clear that the collusion in Silicon Valley is a lot more real than any collusion between the Trump administration and Russians.
So let's say you're able to establish there are antitrust considerations. What is the solution?
Well, I don't think we have to do much more legislating at all. The antitrust laws have been on the books since the 1880s, and they establish that if a company does have market power, it may not discriminate against customers. It may not take to itself monopoly profits that disadvantage customers. It also can't keep entire classes of customers out of service. Imagine if the railroads had just refused to take Republicans to Nebraska in the 1880s, or if the Bell system, another monopoly, refused to allow union households to have telephones.
So you just basically, Scott, you just want them to stop editing, stop censoring people on the right. The solution may not be to break up the company, but to tell them you have to listen to these voices.
That's right. As long as they treated everyone legitimately equally, then there would be no objection. But it's time for them to make the decision if they want to do it voluntarily or when the political cards are right, that the government will have to get involved.
Interesting. Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
Scott Shepard there.